Our conference focuses on overcoming obstacles utilizing design thinking. Design thinking is an empathy centered, flexible approach to problem solving that encourages creative thinking to common challenges while you're taking the leap. Through this approach, shown on the chart, design thinkers like you are given tools to find innovative solutions to any problems, including crafting a purpose driven career journey.
You made it here. You've got all your gear. You've done the bravest thing. Start. Now, are you ready to take the leap? We can't think of anybody better to help us take this leap than our keynote speaker today, Tom Kriegelstein.
Tom has spoken to leaders at some of the largest companies in the world, such as Coca-Cola, Pfizer, and Disney. Through his speaking, he holds an unprecedented 6 national speaking titles from APCA. He's a TEDx speaker, held a Guinness World Record, and sat on the board of NYC Entrepreneurs Organization for 5 years.
In the past, Tom has spoken at for the Rutgers Department of Leadership and Experiential Learning, and we're so happy to have him back on our virtual campus again.
Use the chat and all the reaction buttons on Zoom to help us welcome Tom.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sabrina and Shivani. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I looked at that picture there and I look at me now and I'm thinking I've aged a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. And I'm also, thank you for the welcome in the chat. I love seeing it. But I have to say, I'm looking through this crowd of all these videos here. I have to say, there's some good looking people in this group right now. Jenica's like, he's talking about me. I know it, Jenica. I see it with that smile. Listen, I just need to know, how are you feeling right now? If you could summarize your thoughts, emotions, feelings in one word quickly in the chat box, type in that one word. Ready and go.
If you want it, take it. I should have said it before. Try to hide it, fake it. I can't pretend anymore.
All right, I love seeing some of these come in because I see everything from excited to nervous, tired to wide awake, motivated to exhausted. Like if I could summarize 2020, it's this chat box right here. That's it's like we have every possible emotion happening to us at the exact same time. And and I look around and I'm looking at your faces. I'm trying to understand more about this group. So I have another question for you, because I'm curious, how many hours of sleep did you get last night? Go ahead and put your answer into that poll that just popped up on your screen. And let's see how this group fares. So I get a sense of who I'm working with here. And we're gonna close out this poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one's coming in and close. Now, before I reveal the results, if you looked at all the screens of each other and were to guess on average how many hours this group slept last night on average, go ahead and put your answer into the chat as to how many hours you think this group slept. Let's see what you come up with. Oh, I see 6, I see 7, 5. Someone said 4.25, very specific. 4, 8. Anish, I see it coming in. All right, well, let's see. Here are the results. The results are, as a group, you slept about, I would guess, 6.5 hours last night, which actually is pretty dang good because the group I was working with last week, they had only slept 4 hours on average. So you're already ahead of the game. I love it. Well, let's see. I want to learn more about this group. So here comes another poll question. It's going to pop up on your screen. The question is, would you rather have more time or more money? Choose which one you would pick between more time and more money. And by the way, if it doesn't pop up on your screen, it's okay to also type it into the chat if you don't get that poll question. Let's see, we got some answers flying in right now, and we're going to close this poll out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, now before I reveal the results, hey, Jenica, I'm going to bring you into the spotlight here. Welcome. You get to join me in the spotlight. And the question is, what would you choose between more time, more money? Share with the group what would you choose and why would you choose it?
I would choose more time because you can have money and still be ill. So I prefer to have more time to live life to the fullest.
Oh, I like it. Well, Jenica, let's see how you compare to your peers, because as a group, 63% of you said more time. That's interesting. You know, we're not traveling, no one's traveling, but yet we're still desperate for more time. And I'm with you right there. Hey, can you all help me in celebrating Jenica? And there's 3 ways we can celebrate her. The first way is we can take our hands and kind of throw it at the camera. Go ahead and try that out. Just quickly let her see your hands fly at the camera like this. Perfect. Second option, take your hands and just kind of wave them in the air like this. You can like do the surfer hands, you can do the jazz hands, whatever you want. The third option is you can take your fingers and just kind of throw them at the camera just like this. Go and put your fingers right up next to the camera. Let her see those fingers, magic. And then actually, I'm going to throw in a fourth option. If you like you're like, Tom, my camera doesn't work, then go into the chat box and just give a bunch of exclamation points. Those are our 4 ways. So here we go. We're going to celebrate Jenica for her amazingness. Can you all help me in celebrating Jenica? One of those 4 ways. Ready and go. Give her the celebration. I love it. Jenica, thanks for sharing. I'm going to share the results with the group. Oh, I shared it already. So we're going to move on though, Jenica, to the next poll question. Here it is. The question is, would you rather have a life pause button or a life rewind button? And let's see, I'm going to bring a brand new person into the screen here. I'm looking around. Hey, Paola, I'm going to bring you in. Yeah, here we go. We're going to bring you into the spotlight here. Welcome to the spotlight. Share with the group, what would you choose between more life pause or life rewind button? And why would you choose it?
I would choose life rewind. If I ever made a small mistake, I would just a little rewind and then just don't make that mistake again.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, you just quickly rewind. You know, but here's something, I just think about this for a moment, okay? And this is for everyone. Because listen, I have made some mistakes in my life, okay? And there's like afterwards, I know some of you are like, Tom, me too. Listen, we've done it. And at the time, I wish I could have gone back and redid it. However, at some point later on in my life, a lesson was gained because of that mess up that I had or that mistake I had. I didn't know it at the moment. Sometimes it takes me a week, sometimes it takes me an hour, sometimes it takes me a week, sometimes it takes me 5 years. And then I sit back and I go, that's why the universe made me mess up there, because I needed to learn this lesson. And by the way, if the same lesson keeps happening over, or the same mistake keeps happening over and over again, that's just the universe trying to tell you a lesson. Listen for it. It's there. So, because sometimes our past mess becomes our future message. All right, so Paola, let's see how you compare to your peers. I'm going to share the results here, taking a look. As a group, 53% said pause, almost equal. 47% said rewind. Hey, can you all help me in giving him some acknowledgement? Let me see those hands of celebration right there. So good, because we got to move on to question number 3. Here it comes. Question number 4, which is, this one's a good one. Would you rather win the lottery or live twice as long? And I'm going to bring a brand new person into the chat here. Let's see. Hey, Selena. I'm going to welcome you into the chat here, or into the spotlight. Go ahead and just unmute yourself, share with the group. What would you choose between the lottery or living twice as long?
I think I would choose to win the lottery because I think living twice as long, unfortunately, means that not all of my friends and family could live twice as long with me. And then if I do win the lottery, I could spend a lot of the money like giving it away to other people. So I think that make me really happy.
Oh, I like this. You thought about this one. You went deep with it for a while. You're like, none of my friends are gonna be here, so I might as well take the money now and celebrate. Well, let's see. So now how you compare to your peers here. Taking a look, and share the results. As a group, 78% of you said, Tom, just give me the money. I'll figure out what I want to do in my life. Okay, you don't worry about it. Just give me the money. That's how you know you're working with college students, when they're just like, no, I'll take the money. Can you help me in giving Selena some acknowledgement? Let her see those hands of celebration. So good. Thanks for sharing, because we got to move on to our last and final question, because I feel like I'm getting a good grasp of this group. Here it is. This one's a tricky one. Would you rather no one shows up at your wedding or no one shows up at your funeral? Ooh. Let's see, and I'm going to bring someone brand new. Hey, Adam, bringing you into the spotlight here. Welcome, Adam, with the Marvel comic in the background. Go ahead and unmute yourself and then share with the group, what would you choose between no one showing up at your wedding or funeral?
See, I think that I would rather nobody show up to my funeral, just because I feel like if nobody showed up to my wedding, it'd be really awkward for me. But if it was my funeral, it'd be really awkward for them, and I would just be standing there watching and laughing.
That's good. I like the thought process. Laura in the chat said, "Does that mean I'm going to be alone? Like, am I still getting married to someone?" No, Laura, your date would be there. Your partner is there at the wedding, so you are still getting married. And let's see, Adam. I got married last year, and let me tell you, it was expensive per plate. So now I'm like, if I can redo, I'm like, is this person really family member of mine? I don't know how much I really like them. But let's see how you compare to your peers, Adam. Opening up the results, sharing it, almost evenly split, 48-52 to wedding versus funeral. Hey, can y'all help me giving Adam some acknowledgement? Let's those hands of celebration. So good. Thanks for sharing, Adam. I appreciate it. I have to say, this is helping me get a good grasp of this group, but I don't want to stop here because I want to keep it going. And the thing I love about this, like you saw Adam, he had that Marvel comic in the background. And then I look around at some and I see Michael's got some artwork or something in the back there. And others like there's staff members like Scott's got diplomas representing in the background there. And I look around and it's kind of interesting. We, in this digital world we live in, we get to peek a little bit into each other's lives in a unique way. And so I want to take this to another level. This is called the home scavenger hunt. And your challenge in just a moment is to find 3 objects in your physical space and bring those 3 objects back to the screen. One of those objects should be something that makes you smile. Another one might be something that you think you're the only one who has this object. And the third one should be some kind of new habit that you've created. Now, if you're like, Tom, I'm not at home, see if you can find something nearby you that might be good. If you're like, Tom, seriously, I'm outside of my car, pull up your phone and pretend that you got pictures or find pictures on your phone that represent these 3 objects. So we'll have 90 seconds to leave your screen and come back with these 3 objects. Here we go. Ready and go.
Stronger than I've ever felt. This is the part when I break free, 'cause I can't resist it no more. This is the part when I say I don't want it. I'm stronger than I've ever felt. This is the part when I break free, 'cause I can't resist it no more. Deeper, I was amazed, like a deadly fear, babe, on the highway to hell. Hands of a broken heart.
20 seconds left. Hurry up.
This is the part when I say I don't want it. I'm stronger than I've ever felt. This is the part when I break free, 'cause I can't resist it no more. This is the part when I say I don't want it. I'm stronger than I've ever felt. This is the part when I break free, 'cause I can't resist it no more.
All right, everyone should have an object. Quickly, can you take one of your objects and just hold it up in the air for everyone to see? Let's see some of those objects. I'm looking around. I see a cactus. I see some weights. I see a camera. I see a Marvel bottle. I see an avocado. I don't even know what's going on with that avocado. I see a puppy. I see a book. I see a little dog, tiny dog standing on someone's. I see, oh my gosh, so many good things. What, Julia, what is that? I don't even know. All right, set these down. These are so great, so great. So in just a moment, we're gonna leave this large group and head into our first breakout group. And in that breakout group, you have a chance to share your objects. These 3 objects, something that makes you smile. I brought 3 with me. I brought with me here, let's see if I have it. So when I got married, I also became a stepfather. So I have a stepdaughter. And she made me this thing for Father's Day called Happy Tata's Day. And Tata is dad in Serbian because her mom's Serbian. And so she made this for me, and it just warms my heart that she's like brought me into her world so well. And so this is something that makes me smile. Something that I think I might be the only one. Many years ago, I bought these coasters that you put like drinks on, but if you you can put them on your face. And so they like change, and oddly enough, like they perfectly work in a way that all of a sudden it transformed your face into something else. So yeah, so anyways, I think I'm the only one who has that. And then lastly, a new habit. So I normally would go running, and I can't run as well because I live in New York City and I don't want to run with the mask. So I started jump roping. So I download this app on my phone for jump roping, and that's my new habit, is jump roping. All right, now it's your turn. In just a moment, we're gonna leave this large group, head into our first breakout room. In that breakout room, the person with the longest hair gets to go first, and then go around. Now I know some of you are like, Tom, my camera doesn't work. See if you can use your audio and share your objects that way. If you're like, Tom, my audio doesn't work either. See if you can type into the chat your object. If you're like, Tom, my fingers don't work either. Then just listen. It's like all I got for you is just listen. But hopefully there might be a staff member in each room. If not, students, you're running it. The longest hair goes first, but I know this is a group of leaders. I know you can run this, make this happen. Each person will have about 90 seconds to share their objects. I'll let you know from the messaging when we're about halfway. So with that, here we go. Can you help me send you into the breakout room? To do that, can you take your left hand and just start waving goodbye to the camera? Go ahead and wave goodbye, because that's gonna signal us to Zoom that we're heading into a breakout room. See you all after the breakout rooms. Bye. Quickly, can you just acknowledge everyone that was in your breakout room? Let me see those hands of celebration. Thank them for sharing with you. Now I should sit there if you're like, Tom, all I brought was like a mean peanut butter jelly sandwich where my best friend in the room had this beautiful painting that they came up with. Like, don't feel bad. All I was trying to do was like draw more lives, more relationships, more connections here within this group. And I feel like I got a good grasp of this group now. So I can ask you the question I actually really wanted to ask you. And maybe to set this up, I'm just curious, how many of you have ever heard the story of the 3 bricklayers? Raise your hand if you ever heard this story before. Who's never heard the story before? Raise your hand. All right, most of you. Who doesn't like to raise your hand at all? Just raise your hand. Okay, just checking. Adam, I saw it right there. Yeah, the 3 little piggies. No, different story, different story. So this is the story. It's really quick. It's a guy walking down the street, and he's walking down the sort of like this empty road, but he sees 3 people on the side of the road hunched over, and it looks like they're doing something. So he walks up to the first person. He says, well, what are you doing? And the person turns around and he looks at him and he says, I'm laying bricks. And he says, and then he goes to the next person. He says, well, what are you doing? And the next person says, I'm building a sidewall. And he goes to the third person and says, well, what are you doing? And the person responds and says, I'm building a stadium. And in that moment, this guy realized that 3 people could be physically doing the exact same thing, but mentally be in 3 different places. And it got me thinking about you here at this LEAP Summit. Why are you here? What's your purpose? Why are you coming to this? Are some of you are doing it to lay bricks? Some of you are building a sidewall, and some of you are using this as a way to build a stadium. You know, and before I ask you to answer that question for yourself, I want to give you one more story. And to let you know, this story it's a sad story with a happy ending. So stay with me, okay? Many, many years ago, a friend of mine was working at a restaurant, and he got off of work and he was driving home. And as soon as he got onto the highway, a drunk driver came at him in the opposite direction, hit him head on. Horrible car accident. He went into a coma. He came out of that coma, but the doctors were pretty convinced he was never going to walk again. So the doctor went up to my friend and said, it's amazing you're out of this coma. It's so great, but I want to be honest with you. There's a strong possibility you may never walk again. And my friend turns towards the doctor and with a big smile on his face, he says, I know, but this is great. Okay, so as you can imagine, the doctor's super confused at this moment because that's not the reaction he was expecting. So he leaves the room, goes up to this my friend's dad who's in the waiting room and says, listen, I want to let you know that I think we should do some additional tests on your son because there might be some cognitive damage. And because I just told him he might never walk again, he had a strange reaction. Can you talk to him? The dad goes into the room, walks up to his son and says, son, listen, we're so excited you're out of this coma, but just so you know, there's a strong possibility you may never walk again. And the son turns towards the dad with a big smile on his face. He goes, I know, Dad, but this is great. Now, before I reveal what else he said to his dad, I'm going to let you know again that this is dark humor with a happy ending. So it's okay to laugh. I'm giving you permission to laugh at this next line. So he turns to his dad with a big smile on his face. He goes, I know, Dad, this is great, but I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker, and now I'm going to have a story to tell. He went on to rehabilitate himself, to actually walk again, which I know is not always the case, but he did. And he went on to become a professional speaker. In fact, he became so famous as a speaker that he works for some of the largest companies in the world and charges $20,000 per speech. And then he wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. His name is Hal Elrod. And his book is always one of the one of the 100 most purchased books on Amazon.com. His book sells so much that he makes an additional $10,000 per month just off of the sale of this book. Think about that for a moment. He gets into a car accident, goes into a coma, comes out of that coma, told he's never going to walk again. And the first thing he thinks in his mind is, this is the start of my life. Because you can imagine someone else would get into that exact same car accident and their first thought would be the exact opposite. So where are you at right now? Why are you here at this LEAP Summit? Here's the question. Why is it important for you to be at this program? For yourself, for the school, or maybe even for the world? When I say go, I'm going to challenge you to write down on a piece of paper somewhere write down your answers to this question. I'm going to give you 2 minutes and 22.6 seconds to answer these questions. Here we go. Ready and go. So Sharon, now I have to say, I wish we could get to all these answers, but we don't have time to get to everyone. So thank you all so much for having your hand up. We're just going to lower down all those hands and appreciate it. Maybe we'll have a chance a little bit later to come back to it. You know, hearing your stories reminds me of this concept. And I know some of you are looking at my screen right now and you're like, there's a light bulb, some Twinkies, now I'm hungry, and Meetup, meetup.com, which some of you may be familiar with. And the reason I have these three up here is because each one has an interesting story. And I know it may be strange that you think like now you're in the wrong session. You're like, how does it have anything to do with the LEAP Summit? But let me explain. Did you know that GE invented, General Electric, invented the fluorescent light bulb in the middle of the 1970s economic crash due to the oil crisis? So in the middle of what was presumably one of the worst crashes, they decided that they were going to invent the light bulb. And then did you know that Twinkies were invented during the economic crash of the 1930s by a baker who was so desperate to keep his business open after strawberry season was over and there were no more strawberries, that he actually used his baking equipment to create the first Twinkie? I can only imagine how many companies and businesses right now are trying to reinvent themselves, and we're going to have our new future version of the Twinkie. And lastly, did you know that meetup.com was created right after 9/11 as a way to help the world stay in touch? It now has over 35 million users and it's worth a projected $93 million. Amazing innovation occurs out of necessity. You know, Winston Churchill is famous for this quote. He says, never waste a good crisis. Well, some of you might think that right now, 2020 is a crisis. And there's so much opportunity in it. We just have to be open to seeing it. And as we go through this summit, I want you to think about something. I want to think about two things. Think about 2020. Is it the year that's happening to you, or is it the year that's happening for you? This question becomes critical to your motivation. It becomes critical to how you choose to show up in any situation. It's the difference between passively accepting everything that's going on and just going, well, it's just going to keep getting worse, or saying, oh, that's interesting, and using that as a leapfrog to do something about it. So as we go through the rest of the summit, I want you to have an open mind, an open lens of possibility. And here's what I want, every time a speaker comes up, maybe it's myself, maybe it's someone else, is ask yourselves these three questions. What if, what could be, and how might we? Because those three questions are where the opportunities lie right now. Too many people are shutting doors to so many amazing opportunities because they're choosing to say that 2020 is the year that's happening to them. But if you choose to say it's the year that's happening for you, now all of a sudden you open up to the possibility of what if, how could we, and how might we? And I'm asking you during this Leap Summit to take that leap. But don't just take the leap. But to take a leap, you can't just be on the sidelines. It's a full contact sport. Like, you gotta go for it. Let me show you what I mean. A friend of mine many years ago who lives in New York City, one day he got a text message on his phone. And on the text message, it said, meet in the park with a pillow in a black plastic bag. When the clock strikes 3, pull out your pillow and begin pillow fighting. Okay, now he didn't know how many were actually gonna go to this pillow fight, and he didn't know how many are actually gonna show up. But he said, game on, because he's the kind of person that when an opportunity like that comes up, he wants to go and make it happen. So he takes his pillow, puts it into his black plastic bag, heads down to a park in the city called Union Square Park. How many of you have ever heard of or know Union Square Park? Raise your hand. Let's see, some of you do. It's this park right here in the city. Who's never heard of it before? A few of you. Okay, so I'm going to show you the video because his friend videotaped him in this pillow fight. When you see the video, at one point they're going to go to the balcony of a store. When they do and they look at it from the top down, see if you can see where the center of this pillow fight is. Here we go. Take a look at this video. It's going to share on the screen in 3, 2, 1.
We are here, Union Square, New York City. Armed and ready.
Well, that clock's like 3 o'clock. We got some building demolition to get taken down. Oh, no, I have 2 minutes. The mob is growing right side. There's 14, 2:58 minutes. No one left behind. We'll all make it out. 25. That's the jump.
All right, at the balcony. See if you can see where the center is. We're gonna zoom out.
All right, I should I'm gonna run fast. Home food and grab some things for my guests. Drinks and cookies.
Look at this. 5,000 people show up for this pillow fight in Union Square. And it looks like a big dance floor because you can see where's the center at. It's where all those pillows and feathers are flying around. And the further you get away from the center, the less involved people are. You'll see that in any group, that's the situation, that in any group, you're gonna see that there are spectators who watch the experience go by, and then there's participants who make the experience happen. This concept plays out everywhere, in groups anywhere. In fact, at Rutgers University, you've probably seen spectator students before. They're the students that go room to class, class to class, class back to room. And that's their entire college experience. Some of you are like, Tom, stop talking about me. No, listen, you're at this summit. I know you're more than a spectator student. But when you ask these students how college is going, their response tends to be something like, this is stupid, I'm bored and I'm tired. That's the narrative of the spectator. But on the opposite side, we have the participants. The participants are the ones who make the experience happen. They're the ones who get involved outside the classroom. They're the ones who join the LEAP Summit. They're the ones who start a business while they're at college. They're the ones who choose to get involved in something outside the classroom. And when they do, research shows that the more involved you are outside the classroom, the higher your grades are, your graduation rate is, and your successes after you graduate. That all comes by you being a spectator, by being a participant, not being a spectator. So the question is, where will you stand? Now that you know there's the difference between spectators and the participants, and I want to give you an example of two students who came off the edge to the center, and they went from spectator to participant and completely changed their lives. And I hope that through these stories, you can find some inspiration to be able to take what you've been wanting to do and take that leap. From going from the kind of student who stood off the edge and watched the experience go by to be the kind of student who takes the leap and makes the experience happen. The first guy, his name is Matt. Can everyone just wave and say, hey, Matt? Perfect, I could hear you through the screen. Matt was a sophomore at college and he had his backpack on. He's walking down the hallway. And he's walking down the hallway, he sees a bulletin board. And on that bulletin board, there's a poster that says, write a poem and win a scholarship to go to Europe. Now, Matt had never written poetry in his life, but he always wanted to go to Europe. So that night he goes home and he opens up his computer and writes the first poem he's written ever. And it goes like this: roses are red, violets are blue. I want to go to Europe. You want me to too. And he sends the poem. He gets a call that he won the scholarship. He is as shocked as some of you are right now that he won. So the next day he walks on campus, he goes into the office, he goes, my name is Matt, poet laureate here on campus, but I have a question before I accept the money. Did I truly write the best poem out of everyone else on campus? And the lady behind the counter, she paused for a moment, she crossed her arms, leaned back in her chair and went, well, you were the only one who submitted a poem. Here's the thing. Rutgers students, listen, you're going to see a lot of opportunities at college. In fact, you're going to see a lot of opportunities in life. And the first thought is, nah, I bet a ton of other people are going to do it. But the reality is, they're not. Because too many people are spectators of their own lives. Meaning they're passively watching it go by. And if you choose to be a participant, choose to be the kind of student that just takes that extra effort and pays attention to what's happening around you, good things start to come your way. And Matt did. But Matt didn't just want to stop there, because when he went to Europe, he said, I want to do something extra special. So every city he went to, he set up his camera, he hit record, he stepped back and he did this dance. And then he went to the next city, had set up his camera, hit record, stepped back and did this dance. He started uploading these videos to the internet, one by one, privately, so his friends could see where he's at. But as soon as his friends saw these videos and they saw how ridiculous his dancing was, what do you think his good friends did with those private videos? Yeah, that's right. They shared them everywhere. And his videos went viral to the point where he started getting random messages from people that went like this: Matt, we love this dancing thing you're doing. In fact, we love it so much. When you're in our city next, can you let us know so we can come and dance with you? Matt's first thought is, that's super weird. But his second thought is, I have fans and I got to let my fans know where I'm going to be. So he sets up a website titled wheretheheckismatt.com. And some of you doubt this story. You can actually go right now to wheretheheckismatt.com. You can see he is a real person. And he sets up a website listing all the different cities he's going to go to: Berlin, Germany, London, England. And he sets up these everywhere he goes, he sets up his camera, hits record, but now he's got a whole bunch of locals dancing with him. And as his dancing continues on and it grows and grows, it gets so big that he gets another email that leads to a phone call from Stride Gum. Can you give me 2 thumbs up if you've heard of Stride Gum before? You know Stride Gum, the gum company? Looking around, most of you do. So it goes like this: Matt, we love this dancing thing you're doing. In fact, we love it so much, we want to have you be a dancing ambassador for us at Stride Gum, where you travel around the world for 1 year, for an entire year, and we'll cover all your expenses. Matt's on the other line. This is a really tough I will go. He took that money and traveled around the world for a full year, paid for completely by Stride Gum. And everywhere he traveled, he posted videos of him dancing. Now, I brought that video with me and I'm going to share it with you. But when I share this video with you, you're going to see a whole bunch of different cities and countries of people dancing. When they do, can you in the chat box, if you see a city or a country that you would love to go visit, can you just in the chat box say, I want to go visit South Korea, or, or annyeonghaseyo, or, I can't wait to go to India, whatever it is, and put in the chat box and see who else in the chat box would also be excited to go with you. So here's the video. Take a look in 3, 2, 1. how many of you, by show of hands, would love to travel around the world if someone paid for the whole trip? Just raise your hand. I mean, how amazing is it that that's what he got to do? And I was so amazed by his story that I actually reached out to him. I was like, yeah, how did you do this? How did you go from sophomore to dancing ambassador to the world? And I heard so much of his story. But what it came down to was this critical lesson. The critical lesson is this. Now, I have a phrase that says the action's in the middle. But another way to say this is that proximity is power. Go ahead and write that down on a piece of paper somewhere. The stronger your relationships are with faculty, staff, and administration outside the classroom, the more opportunities are naturally going to come your way. And what Matt discovered is that while every other student rushed out of the class, he spent 2 minutes. Whether it was on a Zoom call or in person, he would take 2 minutes to chat with the teacher. And he found in that 2 minutes 3 critical things to help him take a leap in his life. One is he found out what the opportunities for scholarships were going to be on campus. 2, he found out where the internships for his career were. And 3, he found out what was going to be on the test. So tip number 1 is proximity is power. Position yourself close to people in leadership positions. Find yourself building those connections with them because they're naturally going to have opportunities for you. Which some of you in the Success Summit prior in Robin's class may have heard of him. His name is Juan. And Juan was a master of a concept called more friends equals more fun. Another way to say this is that your network equals your net worth. Go ahead and write that down on your piece of paper. Juan, and I'll tell you his story in just a moment, had a realization while he was in college. He realized that actually, before I share his story, let me tell you a quick research. So there's a research study done around health. And what they were trying to determine was if I took Stephen, for example, and Steve, I'm gonna bring you a spotlight here. And if I took Stephen and I was trying to guess Stephen's overall health. So the researchers, what they did is they didn't talk to Stephen directly. They went to 6 people that were closest to him, like his 6 closest friends. And they interviewed each one of them and measured each one of them. And then they found out the average of those 6 people. And then they gave Stephen his prediction of his health based on the 7 people that were around him, or the 6 or 7 people. And it came out to be pretty accurate that we're able to predict someone's health based on who they have into that situation, into their lives. So Juan had this realization. He had this realization that for him, he looked at his friend group at that moment and realized that he didn't like the people he had around him, because while he was trying to go up, he was trying to take a leap in his life, everyone around him was bringing him down. And he said, I need to upgrade my friends, because he realized that his network equals his net worth. And so what he wanted to do is to increase the network. So he took a poster board, held it up with the word free hugs on this poster board. And he started walking around. His friend videotaped it and started walking around, and he started making new connections off of this free hugs video. I'm not going to show the whole video here today because we have so much other stuff I want to get to, but I quickly want to show you a part of it just so you can see what the video was like. Take a look at this video here and see how many connections he makes just off of this one sign that he holds up right here. Take a look at 3, 2, 1.
Shook it up. I never loved nobody fully. Always 1 foot on the ground. And by protecting my heart truly, I got lost in the sounds I hear in my mind. All of these voices I hear in my mind. All of these words I hear in my mind. All of this music, and it breaks my heart. And it breaks my heart. And it breaks my heart. When it breaks my heart. Suppose I never ever saw you. Suppose you never ever called. Suppose I kept on singing love songs just to break my own fall, just to break my fall, just to break my fall, just to break my fall.
And quickly, can you just help me give it up for the free hugs video right there? Let me see this hand celebration. And as some of you spotted or noted in the chat right here, like, it is not possible right now. In fact, it's very smart not to hug anyone. And I was thinking, you know, as we were leading up to this Leap Summit, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be great if like somehow I could have all of your doorbells ring right now and someone open up and you open up and there was a person there with a free hug sign for you. But I was realizing A, that logistically would be impossible, and B, it'd be kind of creepy if I could actually pull that off. So I decided against that because I decided that that's not a good idea. But when I think about the Free Hugs campaign and your network equals your net worth, the thing I think about is that to take a leap, you have to have people around you, but to build that network, you have to put yourself out there, meaning you have to push yourself past your comfort zone. And it was like almost I could see in their mind at that moment, I could almost hear them saying to me, this is stupid, I'm bored, and I'm tired. Like that, I could hear it in their mind, them bleeding out this spectator mentality. But in this group, we have a bunch of participants, the ones who are making the experience happen. Because in this group right here, you made the moment happen. You made the moment happen. Think about that. I wish I could tell you that college is going to be filled with all sorts of amazing opportunities for you that are going to be the thing that you love doing the most. But the reality is, it's not. Life isn't that way. There's going to be so many moments when we're going to have to choose our mental attitude. And our mental attitude is going to determine our physical attitude, and our physical attitude is going to determine what we choose to do in that moment. Did 2020 happen to you, or is it happening for you? You know, something I said earlier that I discovered is that about human behavior is that the way we show up in one activity tends to be the way we show up in a lot of activities. So if you find yourself saying, this is stupid, I'm bored, and I'm tired over and over and over again, at some point, it's not the activity, it's you. Or, you know, another way to say that, you know, if you find yourself saying, this is stupid, I'm tired, I'm bored over and over again at different activities, at some point it's not the activity, it's your friends. And you gotta choose, are you gonna hold on to those people who are holding you back? Or are you gonna take the leap and find a group of people who wanna take the leap with you, who wanna grow to that bigger, better version of themselves? Because unfortunately in college, there's way too many spectators and only a few participants. Find the participants, connect with them, let them be your network. Let them work with you to take that leap. You know, in college, I had an opportunity to take a leap because my whole life I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's like, I knew it. I just had no clue what in. And so I was always looking around for opportunities, but I was always too nervous to like take that step, that next step into it. So one day I bought this textbook. It was a $150 business law book. Raise your hand if you know that textbooks are expensive. Yes or yes, right? So $150. Now at the time there was no renting a textbook. So all we had to do was, the option was to return it to the bookstore and get some money, but they would buy it back from us. Now I went back to the bookstore, I took my book and I went back and I said, hey, I want to sell this book back. And the lady behind the counter, she looked at me and started to laugh. And I was like, why are you laughing? And she goes, oh, well, that's an old edition textbook. We're no longer buying those anymore. I said, and she said, it's old edition, we're no longer buying them because we don't need it. I was like, you don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I'm never going to do business law again in my life. But I was mad. I was upset. I was pissed. So I left and I started walking back to my room. And on the way back, I stopped by the computer lab. And I looked at Amazon.com to see how much that book was selling for on Amazon.com. And at the time, it was selling for $75. So I listed it on Amazon.com. And I went to 2 classes, came back a couple hours later, logged into my email, and it said, "You've got mail." And sure enough, in 2 hours, my book sold for $75. It's like, this is great. I got excited for a moment, but I said, wait a second. You know, that class that I'm in is filled with a bunch of students who think college is this. It's a waiting line, meaning I start college, I go to class, I go to my room, I go to class, go to room, and then I graduate, and then life begins. It's the same people who think success looks like this. But those who have gone through the journey know that success looks a lot more like this. There's going to be ups and downs and twists and turns and rights and lefts. This is also what your college experience should look like. Meaning we get involved in things, we participate in other things. And I knew that that group that I was in like this, I knew that they thought college was a waiting line to get into the real world. I knew they knew that. So the next day I walk in front of the class and I stood in front of them and said, "Hey everyone, listen, my name's Tom. Listen, I know you have these old edition textbooks you can't sell back. And because I'm so given to my time, my energy, and my money, I'm willing to buy all your books for $45 a piece. Can you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you think they let me buy their books?" What do you think? A lot of thumbs up, couple thumbs down. Well, if your thumb is up right now, you would be correct, because I was able to buy all 45 of their books. Now, the thing is that I didn't actually have the money to buy their books at that moment. So I wrote each one of them an IOU, handed it out in class, said, "I'll get you your money in 2 weeks." Took all the books. 40 people in the class took all 40 books, went to the bookstore, went to the computer lab, listed them all on Amazon.com, went home. Several days later, logged in, it said, "You've got lots of mail." And sure enough, every single book sold for $75. And I'm thinking at that moment, I'm like, holy smokes, I'm not eating ramen noodles tonight. You know, I was so excited. I was like, tonight I'm going all out. It is going to be a Taco Bell night. You know, like I was so excited to go all out. But then the thing about taking a leap is that once you take that first leap, your mind and your body get excited, and then they want to take another leap. And they want to see like, ooh, if that worked, can we go a little bit further? And so what I thought about is I said, you know, we can't be the only class that has old edition textbooks on campus this semester. So what I did is I started walking around to all the other the classes on campus, talking to the teachers, and I found out where all the other old edition classrooms were. So I'd walk in front of the class and say, "Hey, my name's Tom. Listen, I know you have old edition textbooks you can't sell back, and because I'm so giving my time, my energy, my money, I'm willing to buy all your books for $35 a piece. Can you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you think you let me buy them?" What do you think? If your thumb is up, you'd be correct right now. And this time I had the money. So I was like, make it rain. You know, I was so excited. And then I went to the next class, bought their books, next class, bought their books, next class, bought their books. As the weeks went by, I was making more money selling these old edition textbooks than it was in my regular job. I quit my regular job just to sell textbooks. But at one point I started to run out. And I knew that the dealer on campus was that bookstore. I knew that they had the biggest stash of textbooks. So I decided one day to take another leap. And I went into the bookstore and I went to the same lady who laughed at me several months ago. And I said, "Listen, I have a question for you. What do you all do with the old edition textbooks that you never sell us, but you can't send back to the distributor because they're old edition?" And the lady behind the counter paused for a moment and she opened up this back room filled with 5,000 old edition textbooks that they hadn't sold. And they thought they were wasting, so they would sell them for 50 cents a pound, which is like $4 a book. And I said, that's interesting. Because I'm so giving of my time, my energy, and my money, I'm willing to buy all 5,000 of your books right now for 25 cents a pound. And she agreed. And She had 7 other bookstores that they all partnered together, that I signed a contract with all 7 of them in the Chicagoland area to buy all their books every semester and be the distributor that sold them online. And I know some of you think, you're like, Tom, did you sleep on a bed of textbooks? Yes, I did. But I didn't care because my senior year, I was selling $1.5 million worth of textbooks to students all around the world. The same textbooks that to this day, I live by NYU and here in New York City, New York University. And sometimes at the end of the semester, I walk by and I see the garbage thrown out and I'll look in the garbage because it's a clear bag. And I'll be like, ooh, that's like a $40 textbook because I can tell by the shininess if it's newer. And I see these textbooks just being thrown out. And so, if you see me on campus one day going through your garbage, don't judge me. And I won't judge you because we'll both know what we're doing, okay? Even though the rest of the world may look at us a little strange, I'll know that you're choosing to take a leap. Here's something I discovered. What matters more than the college you go to is what you choose to do at that college. What matters more than the job you accept is what you choose to do at that job. What matters more than the internship you take is what you choose to do at that internship. The choice is yours. Are you going to be the spectator? Or are you going to be the participant? So what is it for you? I have a question for you. What one goal, if you achieved it within a year, would radically transform your life for the better? I mean, think about it and make sure this is something that you all can actually do. So don't be like Andrew and be like, I want to win the lottery. No, Andrew, you're like me too, okay? I also want to meet the queen before she passes away, but that's not going to happen, okay? So Andrew, pick a goal, and everyone else, pick a goal, something that you can achieve, something that you commit to right here with this group that is your leap. What is it? When I say go, I'm going to give you 90 seconds to write that goal on a piece of paper to yourself. Ready? 90 seconds. Make sure you get something down because we're going to share it. Here we go. Ready and go. Hold on to those goals that you wrote down. And Scott, by the way, in the chat brought up a really good point. A leap doesn't have to be a massive leap. Sometimes it's a baby step. My steps with the textbook started with 1, taking the book, going to the bookstore, and then it started growing from there. So maybe you have this big leap that you wrote down. What's one small baby leap that you can do within that? And I hope that as part of this, and I'm just going to pause the chat for just a moment here, because I want to close out with one final thing for all of you. I know that I did not get to where I'm at today without the support of others. And if you think about it, it's so critical to be able to have the support of others. In fact, gyms in the United States, think about this for a moment. Gyms in the United States, if you think about what is the busiest week for gyms in the United States, just think about it for a moment. What do you think it is? Just take a mental memory, mental thought. The correct answer is the second week of January, because we all set up our New Year's resolutions and then it takes us about a week, a week to come home from vacation, a week to sign up for the gym, a week for our Lululemon pants to show up, because God forbid we show up to that gym not looking our best. But we finally get to the gym. But 1 month later, the second week of February, what percentage of people that signed up in that first week drop out, never to return to the gym again? Just take your best guess. Think about it for a moment. The correct answer is 80%. 80% drop out, never to return again. Okay, now let's keep it going. What percentage stick with it for the entire year? Meaning that they sign up, and then they stay all the way to December 31st. What percentage? Just take your best guess. Think about it. The correct answer? 1.5%. Us humans are horrible at keeping ourselves accountable, but there's a trick. This number right here. That group of 1.5%, 95% of those people did it with someone else, meaning they joined a class, they hired a coach, or they found a buddy to go with them. Us humans are horrible at doing ourselves, keeping ourselves accountable, but we're actually pretty good once we commit with other people. This Leap Summit is going to be a chance for you to take the leap, not just by yourself, but with others. Because if you want to go fast, go alone, but your failure rate's high. But if you want to go far, go together, because your success rate's going to be high. And I want to be a part of your network. Ask me the questions you have about entrepreneurship, about university, about getting a job, any questions you have. And by the way, you should have collected all 4 numbers at this point. If you find me on one of these socials, LinkedIn included, and send me a direct message with the 4 numbers, we're going to take all those numbers, or all those people, and choose one person to get that $25 gift card. That $25 gift card will send out to you via email within hopefully the next 4 days here, so you can use it for those gifts that you're buying right now. Or for yourself, if you want to treat yourself, because that's always a great thing to do too, as you finish up finals at school. But whatever it is for you, I want to be a part of your network. And I want to thank all of you for letting me be a part of this summit, because I got a chance to help you all take your leap. And I want to see where you take it from here. So with that, Becca, I'm going to pass it back to you, and I'm going to thank all the students for letting me be a part of your Leap Summit here. Thank you so much. Becca, passing it back to you in the spotlight.
Thank you so much, Tom. Let's give Tom a big round of applause in whatever way you want to celebrate. Hands in the air, on the screen, in the camera, however you want to say thank you, Tom, so much for getting us energized and inspired this morning to take the leap and continue to evolve and work towards that new goal that you've just set. We're going to revisit it later, so keep it in mind. If you haven't had a chance to evolve it more, you can think on it, and we're going to talk about it and share it with others so we can take the leap together. But now is the time to take the leap and be a participant in your life, not a spectator.
Okay, so we hope that you all enjoyed an opportunity to connect with some new peers. I know I really did, and share your action steps towards your goal. To build on the theme of networking with your peers and sharing resources and experiences, we're excited to invite our student speakers onto our virtual stage. So a little virtual round of applause.
So throughout your college experience, you've discovered tons of opportunities that no one's ever told you about. And you've also faced many challenges that no one ever warned you about. NETMAT stands for No One Ever Told Me About That. Today, our accomplished student speakers are going to tell you something no one ever told them about. Please give a warm, muted Zoom applause for our first speaker, a senior majoring in business and managerial economics, Stephen Flores. Yay!
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Very excited. All right. My name is Stephen Flores, and no one ever told me about imposter syndrome. I am the proud son of 2 immigrant parents that came from Colombia in the 1980s to find a better life. Other parents were coming home in suits, while my parents were coming home exhausted after working long hours as a house cleaner or as a janitor. I never once was ashamed about my parents' professions, but I was just a kid. All I saw was a smile on their face. But what I didn't notice was the physical toll it was taking on them. I decided then and there that my purpose was to repay them one day for everything they had sacrificed. Along the time that I was processing this all, I became determined to go from an average student to a standout student. The hard work paid off. During my junior year of high school, I was nominated to represent New Jersey at the Washington Journalism and Media Conference in DC. This was the first time in my life that I was being recognized for something academic. I immediately began doubting myself and asked why I was even being considered. Maybe I got lucky. I went straight to these questions and conclusions. Why? Looking back on it now, I was suffering from imposter syndrome. According to a very trusted source, Wikipedia, the definition for imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. This continued. It didn't help that during my senior year of high school, I was being given the Bell Award, the most prestigious award you can win at my high school, and someone who I considered to be my friend up until this moment said that the only reason that I won this award was because I was being used to fill a Latino quota. This irritated me beyond belief because I knew this was something that people would always think, even if I had put in the work. My college experience has been a unique one. During my senior year in high school, I applied to a good amount of colleges, but I got denied from the one school I truly wanted to go to, Rutgers. I was accepted into a joint program offered by University of Delaware and American University in DC. I applied to a bunch of internships, most of which I didn't hear back from. But then I interviewed with a woman named Tanisha Bowens from the American Bar Association, and she offered me the internship that same day. I would be interning under Tanisha, focusing on the notary fraud project. I was beyond excited because it was my first internship in a big office, only a few blocks away from the White House. I was one of about 20 interns, a freshman in a sea of seniors and graduate students. Through the semester, I often questioned if my quality of work was even good enough. What was a freshman doing here? Moving forward to my sophomore year, I was beyond happy because I transferred to Rutgers. I wanted to get involved, so I joined the Seeking Success course through the leadership office. Through this experience, I was far more than a quota. I learned more that I could imagine both personally and professionally. But the self-doubt was still very much present. Robin Janice, the director of the office at the time, recommended I apply to be an intern. I applied for the PR position, but I got the complete opposite. I got the peer leadership mentor intern. I knew I could do PR, but I didn't know if I could lead others. This position and the circumstances presented to us made this the biggest learning experience that I've had in my life. To be able to design and facilitate events for college students made this even more special. I had a team of amazing individuals that even through 3 bosses and a pandemic, we supported each other through it all. Being able to step out of my comfort zone so drastically gave me a sense of confidence and awareness of the quality of work that I bring to the table. I was feeling less of an imposter and could tell I was making my parents proud. Even though we were in a pandemic, this past summer I had the opportunity to intern for the Boeing Company, the world's largest aerospace company and leading manufacturer of airplanes. However, this was the first internship that I went in with confidence. Everything that I had worked for leading up to this moment felt like it was all finally coming together. Sure, there were moments through the summer where I doubted myself, but I was able to complete my project successfully and make connections that I know will last me a lifetime. I'm learning that life is a continuous cycle of self-growth, filled with doubt, hard work, and remembering to coming home with a smile. Turns out, imposter syndrome is pretty normal. We just don't talk about it enough. But maybe experiencing imposter syndrome really means pushing yourself. The doubt hasn't gone away, but when it creeps in, I think back on the people that have supported me and believed in me when no one else did. I think of the imposter syndrome my parents must have felt when they first came to this country. I think of how much I doubted my abilities and contributions. No one ever told me self-doubt and imposter syndrome was a normal part of growth and confidence building. Why don't we talk about it more? It creeps into all of our lives. Now here I am, a career engagement operative at the Rutgers Office of Career Exploration and Success. Still, a son of 2 beautiful, loving parents, a soon-to-be uncle, a soon-to-be Rutgers alum, and a soon-to-be founder and CEO of my own startup at 21, excited for what's to come. Thank you, Rutgers.
Okay, so thank you so much, Stephen. Oh my gosh, that really was amazing. So now we're gonna give it up for our next speaker, who is a senior double majoring in SMLR and Sky, Grace Lewis.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Grace Lewis, and today I'm going to be talking about how no one ever told me about the additional obstacles of being an international student. Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Grace tuku ungawa. Ko mga tautiri toku maunga, ko waikato toku awa, ko Lewis toku iwi. Haere mai. For many of you, I presume that you have never heard the language I just spoke, Māori. It is the native language of my country, New Zealand. It is beautiful, and in my culture, you would begin a public address with a pōwhiri. It's like a cultural business card. From my story today, please take this lesson, that there are beautiful languages and landscapes across the globe that you've never even imagined exist. And there are people in your classes, dorms, and workplaces that carry this knowledge around with them. We're students, just like you, but our college experience includes obstacles most Americans will never encounter. During 2020, more so than ever, I want to share with you the experience of being an international student here at Rutgers. Your journey to being a Rutgers student will be unique, but today I want you to come on a journey with me and imagine mine. It began with a coach from the rowing team here at Rutgers contacting me after nationals in 2018 in New Zealand. There followed many discussions and Skype sessions before I decided to secure my admission. Prior to being officially accepted, I had numerous tests online and had to transfer my high school certificate. Next, I had to obtain a visa, which took nearly 3 months and 2 visits to the embassy, which was hours away. Finally, my move-in day involved 2 flights, the first being 15.5 hours and the next 6. I packed up my life into 2 suitcases. I said goodbye to my family and almost 48 hours later was walking into my dorm room. And I love being a student here at Rutgers. As an athlete on the women's rowing team, I am surrounded by remarkable teammates, and I've enjoyed the incredible facilities Rutgers has to offer. There are moments when New Jersey feels like home. And then there are moments when I am starkly reminded of my visa status. Consider this past summer. Some of you may remember and some of you might not have noticed, but ICE announced it would refuse entry to any students not enrolled in in-person classes. In-person classes during a pandemic. And I had elected to stay in America rather than return to New Zealand. But by the time ICE made this announcement, New Zealand had essentially shut the borders and there was a 6 to 8 week delay for entry. By the way, there is still an 8 to 12 week delay for entry with a 2-week military run quarantine in place. So America was kicking me out and New Zealand was filtering entry. And I was legitimately having to look at options of migrating to Europe in order to avoid suffering the deportation process from ICE. Thankfully, Rutgers made a public declaration to stand by the international students and facilitate some degree of compromise. My coaches were equally as proactive and supportive. But during this all, my family and my friends were in New Zealand and they were stressed and fearful of the situation. As you can imagine, they still are. So during 2020, there's been such turbulence in everyone's lives, but there's also been enormous social growth. The effects of a pandemic have shifted value systems. The Black Lives Matter movement has sparked action. The elections have caused extreme stress. And meanwhile, we have all continued to pursue our academic goals amongst an unknown future. When I came to Rutgers in 2019, I knew I was embarking into unknown territory. And perhaps the portion of unknown has proven to be far greater than anticipated. I'm better off for it all and stronger for these experiences. Being here in the US or in New Zealand, all 2020 has taught me is that we're a global community experiencing different yet similar obstacles. Today, I've been able to share with you my journey to Rutgers and the additional obstacles I've had to overcome being an international student. Perhaps as a result of listening to my situation, we can all appreciate one another for our unknown obstacles and be kinder because of that. Thank you.
Now, if you're even ready, please welcome our next speaker, a senior majoring in supply chain management with a global concentration and a minor in Spanish, my girl, Jody Lynch.
Oh, hi, I'm Jody Lynch, and I'll be talking to you about no one ever told me about the idea of perception. So I'm from South Africa. When I was much younger, my parents gave up everything to move to the US to give my sister and I a better life. That makes me first generation. So my parents really didn't understand the US college system. They had given up so much for me, and I felt like I couldn't let them down, so I had to figure it out on my own. College is 1,000 hands reaching out. You just have to take one. Okay, cool. But what if I take the wrong one? Or what if I take one of those hands and I spend all 4 years with those hands and I hate them? What if I make the wrong decisions? I chose a major that I thought my parents would be proud of. I got decent enough grades, but I was always frustrated. Each quizlet was just a pass to get through to the next exam, and I wasn't really learning anything. I was struggling, but constantly felt behind. Behind. Behind who? Or behind what? I had no idea, but I felt that if I made the wrong decision, all those hands reaching out wouldn't see me as worthy of helping. Okay, so now what? Seems like my major is not going to lead me to my career. What can I control? I guess how I spend my free time. I applied for everything, including the Rutgers University Alternative Breaks program and a vegan club. I am no longer vegan, but I did lead my Outbreaks trip on sustainability, and I fell in love with the leadership and experiential learning department. I love that they essentially throw you into the deep end, but are willing to reach a hand out and pull you back up if your head went just below the water. I love that when I wasn't planning the service trips, we were in self-development workshops learning how to be empathetic, responsible, inclusive, respectful people beyond our projects. I found out I loved leadership. The next year, I was an intern and lucky enough to be coordinating a service trip for over 50 participants. 50 people that I'm in charge of. Making the wrong decision and affecting that many people freaked me out. Luckily, my supervisors, Robin Janice and Jordan Shee, pulled me up once or twice when I was sure I would drown. Knowing they had my back gave me the confidence to take the leap and apply for the Global Health Institute Student Council. This was a new organization started by individuals I never would have thought I'd be at the table with. These were people I wanted to be. Applications were open for all sorts of roles. Guess what I applied for? President. I ran for president of a global health-focused organization as a business major. No. As a junior business major against actual doctors and medical students. I don't know what I was thinking, but I knew the worst they could do was say no. Well, here I am, co-president as we speak, and if I thought I was afraid of making the wrong decisions before, consider me terrified. That's over 60 more people to lead, plus the 50 from the service trip, and over 100 and still unsure of my career or major. I admit it, at that point, I needed a hand. At the time, I was taking project management, which is literally being given a team and learning how to lead it. I asked Professor Spiegel to meet with me, and the next morning I was in his office untangling my terror, and after a few weeks, I finally felt like my head was above the water. Side note, reach out, because you never know what opportunity that's going to lead you to. Now it's 2020, I'm a senior, time is ticking, and COVID hit. So little business major me is leading a public health org during a public health crisis. How am I supposed to provide direction when I don't have any myself? How do I move forward? I signed up for another one of Professor Spiegel's courses. Remember the whole you never know what opportunity it might lead to thing? Well, he made me the lead on a project that combines my major that I was trying so hard to escape and my passion that I found to escape it. And then all the pieces started falling into place. The decisions I was so unsure of were right all along. I just had to reimagine them. Everything I'd done so far had led me here. No one ever told me I could work that way. Rutgers is 1,000 hands reaching out. You just have to take one. No one told me that I didn't have to have it all figured out. No one ever told me that it didn't matter so much which hand you grabbed, but rather how you used it. It was never really a matter of right or wrong decisions. It was more a matter of making the decisions right. Shifting your mindset. Take one of those hands and make it right. No one ever told me that eventually all the paths converge into what feels like my purpose. So I'm telling you, Be patient, work hard, and if you can, lift others while you lead. Thank you.
And now we're going to pass it off to our final speaker of the day. Please give a warm welcome to our graduate student intern at the Office of Student Contact, Hamza Ghani.
Hey everyone, my name is Hamza. Thank you for being here today. No one ever taught me how to be my authentic self. To some, this statement may mean a lot, but to others, it may be very vague. Well, my story starts back during my childhood. I'm a first-generation citizen born here in America to a family of Muslim immigrants from Pakistan. Coming from this background, I was always worried about my image because I felt constant pressure to please others. This was because of a controlled upbringing and being raised with the fear of how we were being perceived, especially because of 9/11. As a result of the attacks on the towers, many people treated Muslims or anyone who looked like them as the enemy. For me specifically, my dad used to work in the World Trade Center, and police actually came to my house for questioning. And my siblings actually had death threats, which influenced them to move out of the country. So, coming from a Muslim background and having an experience and understanding of this, one lesson that always stuck with me was to be mindful of my actions because of how others will perceive me. On top of that, I had a lot of rules controlling what I can and can't do. Some of it was warranted, but some of it was really overwhelming. For example, all of my life and even now, I'm always told, don't stay out too late. People in our culture view that as bad, it's dangerous. You don't know who you can trust. Do good in classes to make your family proud and so we don't look bad in front of our relatives. Don't get in trouble. It'll bring shame to you and our family and culture. All of these rules made me feel so restricted. Even deciding my own future, I was given two options for a college career by my parents. Go to school to become a lawyer or a doctor, but really a doctor. So I started my college career at Middlesex County College as a bio major. When I first started, I was nervous about how I would navigate through college, but deep down, I knew that bio was not the career path for me. So to get a feel for college my first semester, I took all liberal arts classes. Then came the second semester when I had to finally start taking the bio classes that I had been pushing off. Deep down, I knew that I didn't want to do this, so I decided to stand up for myself, kind of. I went to the people I trust the most that have always had my back, my siblings, and they helped talk my parents out of it. In this moment, I was finally given the freedom to make my own decision, so the pressure was on. Now, what was a new major I came up with? Well, I decided to become a philosophy major. But as I finished my associate's degree and transferred to Rutgers, even that changed. This was because when I was finally given my chance to explore, I actually learned that philosophy was great, but I really enjoyed psychology and helping people, so I decided to major in it. Then, this change, as well as my involvement in student leader positions, led me to develop my newfound passion, student affairs. This is an area I'm currently working on developing my skills in. So, after all that, I'm now pursuing my master's in the Graduate School of Education in the College Student Affairs program. Up to these last few years, I spent my whole life feeling forced in a direction I was unsure about going into. This made me feel like I was just set back and behind because I was never able to explore for myself until recently. And that new freedom let me explore and switch my career path. Now, I understand that it was normal to switch majors because a lot of students do. And I never wanted to ignore my parents' wishes or do all the other things like stay out late, do bad in school, and set a bad example. But the constant reminders and lack of freedom to explore who I am were unnecessary and added pressure. It took away from my identity and my experience. All of these things just made it feel like the purpose of my life was to follow these rules and to not disappoint others and represent a whole culture and religion like I'm the poster child or something. I've lived my whole life like this, with expectations and rules, but these were of my culture, religion, family, and other relatives, some of which I never even met, meaning I was living and making decisions that I don't even understand why or for who. Now, I say all of this not to say that my upbringing or college experience was bad, because it wasn't. I had a loving and caring family, and I loved my college experience. This idea of not bringing shame on the family name and respecting my parents' wishes also taught me good things too. For example, to realize that the picture is bigger than me. My actions represent myself, my family, my friends, the organizations I'm part of, Rutgers, being a Rutgers student, etc. All of this showed me to put others first and be caring and kind. However, the negative was that in the process, I was never taught when to put myself first, or if I could ever put myself first. And over the years, I'd come to a point where I didn't even know who I was, because all of my life, I had just been a people pleaser who was letting others walk all over him, not thinking for himself, and just following rules. Now, even though I was never taught to balance that, my college experience has really helped me fight through those challenges. It's allowed me to think for myself and challenge these bad thoughts. However, I still struggle with putting myself first and making decisions that are best for me. I ask my close friends, peers, and family often before making decisions, which is normal, but I know I overdo it. And all of that has affected my mental health and peace of mind. But I'm doing my best to keep grinding and to not be afraid to tell my opinion or my story. And that first step means the world to me. Even right now, I'm happy to be doing this, but very nervous about how my story and I am being perceived. But I'll trust you all. Hopefully, you don't have a bad image of me. But through all this, something I learned is that maybe you never do fully know yourself because you grow older, circumstances change, and you're constantly evolving. So it's normal. But I can say that I am finding more freedom and peace in who I am and who I can be. And maybe that's where the focus should be. So to put things into perspective, I want to share a quote with you all. A famous football coach, Herm Edwards, once said, "You play to win the game." Very simple, but when he said this, he meant that you cannot play with the fear of losing or become hesitant. You should stay aggressive, control what you can control, and play like yourself. Growing up, I felt like there was so much fear instilled in me that I wasn't playing for myself. I was playing by someone else's rules and in the fear of losing at the game of life, trying to impress others. Now, I'm finally moving in the right direction and playing to win. And this has taught me a huge lesson that losing was when I was not living for myself and when I was living in fear. And winning just means having the empowerment and audacity to live freely as I navigate through my journey. So today, think about the rules in your own life. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you playing this game of life to win, or are you playing for someone else? Thank you.
Yes, an inspiration. Oh my goodness. No words, but I need to form words because I need to speak to you all. Thank you all so much for sharing your stories with us today. If any of our speakers struck a chord with you and left you wanting to connect more, feel free to reach out through their LinkedIns, and they're listed in the presenter directory, and do it because they are amazing human beings, clearly, and have such incredible stories. Maybe this inspired you to get up here and share your story at next year's Leap Summit conference. So keep an eye out for speaker applications after spring break and do it because you never know what story you have.